Hey everyone, Z Slayer Dre here, and today I'm going to talk to you about the PlayStation 5 reveal event. Sony has been very tight-lipped on everything PlayStation 5 related, and they finally came out and gave us a pretty decent amount. They showed off quite a few games, and they actually, pretty surprisingly, actually showed off the actual box. So we finally know what the PlayStation 5 is going to look at like. So I'm going to get into everything that went on in the event, go over some of the games. There's a lot that were announced, maybe too many to go over individually, but I'm going to go over some standout stuff and just some general thoughts on the reveal in general and how it was handled. So, first of all, one thing that was kind of a strange move on Sony's part was that they decided to show the event at 1080p at 30 FPS. This is weird because Microsoft showed theirs at 4K, I believe. But even still, a lot of people buy games based off graphics. So why they would intentionally show it at a lower quality, I don't know. And the weird thing is, they uploaded 4K, versions of all the trailers immediately after the event was shown. So it's not like they didn't have 4K footage for all this stuff. It's a little bizarre that they didn't. Maybe they were worried that some people's internet wouldn't be able to stream it properly. But again, it was shown up. It was shown like uploaded directly after the event, so it was kind of a weird move. And I gotta say, the difference between the 1080p and the 4K versions of stuff is night and day. You can definitely tell that the graphics look much better at 1080p, but you really can't appreciate them until you see them in 4K. And again, I am someone who believes a gameplay is the most important part of a game. If a game looks gorgeous but the gameplay is horrible, that is a bad game. But still, it's still nice to have the nice graphics. Obviously, I prefer to have better graphics. And there is a point where, the graphics can get so bad that it actually becomes like blurry. Like some Switch games, the resolution gets so low that it's actually hard to see stuff. So there is, a limit to how bad the graphics can get. But yeah, it was just a kind of a weird move. But, they uploaded the 4K stuff after, so everyone got their eye candy eventually. So Microsoft did an event about a month ago, I believe it was, or a few weeks, and it did not go very well. And Sony really had a chance to come out on top because Microsoft has been basically destroying them as far as pregame goes. Microsoft's given us so many more details. They seem to have some pretty consumer-friendly practices. This was Sony's chance to come out and really, stop Microsoft in its tracks and really come out ahead. And I gotta say, they kind of fell flat, like really badly. They showed us a lot of games, but in the box, but a lot of questions that I have, and I think a lot of people also have, were not answered. And it's a little concerning at this point that they're not answering them, which probably means they're gonna go towards the anti-consumer route, unfortunately. I think there's going to be some issues with the PlayStation 5, but we'll go over those later. The thing is, like, I don't know why they wouldn't just come out and give us the other details that we need. I guess that's how they're deciding to go with it. So a big surprise was, and I guess from what I've heard, there's been no rumors about it. There are actually two different versions of the PlayStation 5. One that has a disc drive and the one that's digital only. The one that has a disc drive will actually be a 4K Blu-ray player, which is quite nice. If anyone has a Pro version, it actually just doesn't even have the PS4 Pro. Doesn't actually have a 4K Blu-ray player, which I kind of wish it did. Personally, I've been buying mostly physical copies lately. I'm kind of afraid of really not owning your games when you buy them digitally, and then if the service goes down, you basically have to download them all to a hard drive and hope that hard drive never fails. I'm starting to see some. I'm still playing PlayStation 3 games, and they're actually starting to take away some of the online services of the PlayStation 3, and I'm worried about how long the store will be up, which stinks because I don't think I'm gonna have enough time to finish everything that I've purchased. So, one, I'm not gonna be able to probably buy certain games that I would want to play digitally on the PS3, and secondly, I'm probably gonna have to buy a bigger hard drive so I can just download everything and keep it on the hard drive, which is kind of a pain. So I'm always worried about those things happening. And then you have stuff that gets delisted, although even if it gets delisted, you usually can still download it. Like if there's a Marvel game, they're pretty notorious for it. People have to buy rights for so many years, and if the developer doesn't pay up, then Marvel make them take it off the storefront. So one of the big issues with the Xbox reveal was that it didn't really show any gameplay. It was just trailers. And if there were any, or if there was any gameplay, it was just really choreographed or scripted gameplay. There was not really representational of the actual game, and there no game mechanics were shown. So Sony, and they've taken advantage of some like mistakes Microsoft has made in the past. Sony could have come out and blasted Microsoft by showing gameplay, showing game mechanics, giving details on the games, which is what everyone wants. But nope, it was mostly just pre-rendered trailers, and if there was gameplay, it was choreographed and not really representative of the actual game. Now, in their defense, they did show some gameplay. There was a few games that showed gameplay. Most didn't, or like I said, most games that did show it were choreographed, but there were a few games that showed actual gameplay. Now, they didn't really show like actually game mechanics or leveling systems or anything like that, which is something like, for me, I really do care about. I like to see the actual mechanics of the game, but they did show some gameplay, which was nice. I would have really liked to see a lot more. Like I said, it was mostly pre-rendered trailers. And like I said, graphics is the main driving reason why people usually buy a game. It is shifting towards gameplay, though. It does seem, I have seen a lot of rumblings online now. It does seem like people are really kind of fed up with these trailers that don't really show anything about a game. So the tide is turning. I think it's still heavily skewed towards people really care about the graphics more. It is starting to go in the side of people preferring to the gameplay over the actual graphics, which is great. If games were judged on their gameplay and not their graphics, the gaming industry would probably collapse immediately. So hopefully developers can actually make some good games. It's to be seen. So like I said, there is a ton of games that they showed, so I can't really go over all of them, but I'm going to go over some standouts, talk about some stuff. So they started off the event by showing PS4 games. They delayed this event. Everyone's dying to see PlayStation 5 stuff. They haven't showed anything, and they decided to start off by showing PlayStation 4 games. It's just utterly tone deaf, and whoever's in charge of this marketing for the PlayStation 5 it has done a really bad job. They shouldn't be doing what they're doing. It has been handled so poorly. I know what's going on is complicated things, but Microsoft's been able to do a pretty decent job, other than, you know, the fail with them showing no gameplay in their gameplay trailers. Other than that, they've done very well, and Sony has not been doing very well. And I'm just going to throw this out there, and I believe I said this in other videos. I don't have a stake in this battle. I love video games. I don't care what consoles it's on. As long as there's a good game, I'm happy to play it. I don't care if Sony wins, if Microsoft, if Nintendo. I just want to play good games. You know, if everything was perfect, yes, PC gaming would be the best. Unfortunately, developers usually optimize stuff towards the consoles. So even if your PC is really good, sometimes the games might not run very well on it, and you actually might get a better version on a console. Or sometimes they downgrade the graphics on PC. You know, if every developer actually put the time in and optimize stuff for every system, then yeah, PC would probably be best. And obviously, you know, if you could play exclusives on every system, which is another problem. But yeah, I'm happy to play it on any system as long as the game's good. I will say, though, that this current generation of consoles, the really low frame rate's starting to get to me, because the consoles can't even handle 30 FPS. Again, if the developers want to properly optimize their games, they could definitely get 60 FPS. They just have to tone their graphics a little bit. But again, that's the main selling point for them, because most of the games aren't very good. So they won't do that. One really concerning thing is that Sony has said nothing about 4K 60 frames per second for the games, and something Microsoft is committed to. Really hoping we don't get another console generation of 4K 30 FPS. It's unacceptable. It really isn't. Or if they want to do, if the games can't handle 4K 60 on the PlayStation 5, give us an option to play 1440p at 60 frames per second, or a 1080p at 120. More options would be good. That way people could choose what, you know, how they want to play. 30 frames per second is really unacceptable, unless it's like a turn-based game or something, and even then it kind of sucks. You know, you want the 60 frames per second. But enough about that. Let's get into the game. So they did the PS4 montage, was kind of tone deaf on their part, and then they got even worse by showing GTA 5 for the PlayStation 5 and confirming that that will be playable in a new enhanced version in 2021 on the PlayStation 5. I'm speechless. Like, why? Why would you do that? People want to see the PlayStation 5 games and they show off GTA 5, a PlayStation 3 game. Rockstar has made so much money from it. It seems like they have an exclusivity deal with Sony. I read on the blog that GTA 5 will have... There's going to be a standalone version of GTA 5 online. It's going to be exclusive for 3 months on PlayStation 5. It didn't really go and say anything else other than that. I'm guessing you probably just download GTA Online without the single-player portion of it, so it might make the file size smaller. That's maybe what I'm assuming. But again, couldn't care less about GTA 5. You know, but it's making Rockstar a lot of money, and probably Sony, because they take a cut of the microtransactions. So they're going to keep pushing it. Next, they finally got into PlayStation 5 games by showing an enhanced PlayStation 4 game. So they're going to be doing... There's some confusing info on this, or I've seen a lot of different conflicting info on this. I mostly took this from the blog and from other websites, but basically there's going to be a Spider-Man Miles Morales. It's a standalone expansion, or here's the quote from it. It says they said it was going to be a substantial expansion, and it's going to enhance the game, you know, for PlayStation 5s, probably take advantage of the SSD, increase the resolution, hopefully the frame rate. So it seems like it's going to be, you get the base game, and then there's going to be another expansion with it, with Miles as the lead. Again, I don't know what substantial expansion means. There was 3 DLC for Spider-Man on PS4, and they were very short, very poorly done. I am very skeptical on how long or substantial this expansion will be. What it seems like to me is that it seems like an excuse to not give you the PlayStation 5 version, even if you own the Spider-Man PS4 version. So basically, they're just charging you $60 so you can play the same game that you already own on the PlayStation 5 with, you know, a frame rate bump and maybe a resolution bump. So it's pretty disgusting, you know, or if they're doing that, that's what it seems like. I mean, they haven't really given us any details. They haven't said anything about if you own PlayStation 4 games, you'll get the PlayStation 5 version. If there's a PlayStation 5 enhanced version, they say their stuff is backwards compatible. But we really need some firm details on this, because I've seen a lot of misinformation going around about it, and Sony's really hasn't given many details about it. So they really need to give us some clear information about how the backwards compatibility is going to work, and how, if we have to pay for the PlayStation 5 enhanced versions of it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if it's like a $10 expansion, okay, you know, as long as you get the if you own it on PlayStation 4, you get the PlayStation 5 version, and, you know, if you pay $10 for the expansion, I could be okay with that, you know, as long as it's actual content and not just 2 hours of garbage, which was what the DLC were in the original Spider-Man. So we'll see. Again, we need more details, so I really can't say what's going to happen. But, oh, sorry, I'm going through my notes. I forgot. I put this in the wrong order, but as far as the box goes, I personally did not like the design. I'm going to put it up. I didn't like it. It seems like a lot of people don't like it online. Some people like it. I've always kind of liked the PlayStation designs. I've liked PlayStation 1, 3, and 4. I actually really like the PlayStation 4 design, but I didn't like this one. I don't think it looks very good. But whatever, as long as it plays good games, who cares, I guess. And they also showed off a new lineup of peripherals. There was a new camera, a remote, headphones, there was a stand. I don't know, maybe they'll do a bundle with all of them together with the box. They didn't really, you know, say anything. But, I mean, they look nice. Hopefully they're not completely overpriced. It probably will be, but who knows. The other big game that was shown off was Horizon Zero Dawn 2. It was a very pretty gameplay trailer. Trailer. Didn't really show any gameplay, though. So it seems like it's starting where the last game left off. And, yeah. I thought the original Horizon Zero Dawn was okay. I think it was very overrated. A very generic game. You know, obviously the setting, I mean, it's not completely original. You know, somewhat unique setting, but gameplay was very generic, leveling system, the open world stuff. If they can I mean, they basically stole the talent tree from Far Cry like 3 and 4. If they can maybe come up with a better skill tree, again, being able to play at 60 FPS would make a huge difference, because 30 FPS with an action game like that just sucks. So if they can bump up the frame rate, maybe make a better skill tree, some better, like the gear system kind of sucked, so maybe overhaul the gear system, you know, put actual like RPG, well thought out RPG mechanics, not just like these RPG light stuff, you know, make it an actual RPG, and with a better progression system, you know, maybe make some more exciting open world stuff other than generic Ubisoft stuff would be great. Again, they don't really give us any details, so we'll have to see. One thing I did notice, there were a lot of family-friendly games. I think they're, given how popular the Nintendo Switch has been, they are probably trying to compete with them. One game they announced was Sackboy, I think Big Adventure was called, or something like that. Sackboy from Little Big Planet is going to be the star. It looked like basically like a Mario platformer game. It looked, the graphics were gorgeous. It was kind of similar to the Yoshi game that came out last year. I forget the name of it, but at 4K. Oh my god, that style of game, which I don't really like, but it looked gorgeous. I mean, it really looked amazing. It looks like it could be fun. Again, it's more of like a family-friendly game, you know, younger audience. Not something I would be interested in, but I'm sure it's gonna be. It looked fun. Looked like it'd be a good game, just not for me. There was some other like indie stuff too. That seemed like it would appeal to a younger audience. I think they're definitely trying to, now that, you know, maybe Nintendo's brought some people in that weren't gaming before, more of a casual crowd, Sony's going to try and bring them into the, you know, the PlayStation. Two other exclusives. I have to say, so I said most of the stuff shown was just generic pre-rendered trailers. Two games actually really showed some actual gameplay were Gran Turismo 7 and the new Ratchet and Clank. And it was so great just to see some gameplay. Especially if you look at them at 4K, they look absolutely gorgeous. Especially Ratchet and Clank is showing off the capabilities of the SSD. You can have like a gun and you can go through portals and instantly loads like different areas and worlds. It looks fun. I've never played the Ratchet and Clank games. Again, it's more cartoonish, not really my style. But I'm sure if I had played them when I was younger, if I was nostalgic, I'd probably pick it up. It's not something I'd be, you know, maybe if it's on a deep sale, I would grab it, but it looks good for what it is. And, you know, Gran Turismo is Gran Turismo. I really hope they clean up their DLC problem. I recently wanted to get Gran Turismo Sport, and there are 302 microtransactions for that game. 302. It just, that is so, the level of greed is just disgusting. You know, I understand they have to pay for licenses for cars so they can put them in the game. Other games have packs that are very reasonably priced that you can buy, you know, a bunch of cars from one manufacturer for a very reasonable price, and they don't have nearly that many microtransactions. It's just, they need to clean it up. Just do a pack for, you know, all of like Ferraris, or a pack for Japanese cars, like whatever. I'm not big into cars, I don't really know what I'm talking about. But, you know, I just bought Project Cars too, and they have packs for all the different, you know, car manufacturers. Do something like that that's reasonably priced. Don't do 302 microtransactions. Just insane. It's a problem that Sony has that has been going on for a while. It doesn't really get talked about a lot. They did that PlayStation All-Stars, remember? I think that's like, it's either 100 or 200 different microtransactions. It's just obscene. And it doesn't really get talked about much when people talk about loot boxes, microtransactions. Sony is very guilty of both, and they don't really get talked about much. But I hope they can clean it up. But it was really nice to see some actual gameplay for a change instead of just pre-rendered trailers. Another kind of standout third-party one was, it's published by Gearbox and developed by Counterplay Games. It's called Godfall. It was shown off at the Game Awards last year. It's kind of like a looter shooter, but with, you know, kind of a medieval style, so swords and axes and stuff. It looks kind of cool. I mean, there was gameplay actually shown, but, you know, it didn't really give any progression system or any real details. Again, it's kind of like scripted stuff, so you can't really tell too much from it. You know, it's different scenes jam-packed together, so it's kind of hard to get a really good impression of the game. it's something I could potentially be interested in, and it is going to be available on other systems, so it's not a Sony exclusive. But it's something I could potentially get into. I gotta see what the microtransaction deal is with it though first, and maybe see what the story's like, progression system. Need actual gameplay details if I want to buy the game. You know, would be so nice if they just gave that. Hitman 3 did a trailer too. That was kind of surprising. 2 didn't come out that long ago, but it was just a pre-rendered trailer. Looks cool. You know, Hitman games are okay. I know some people love them. I have a few. I've enjoyed them. I'm sure they're very similar to each other, so I'm sure it's gonna be just like 2, even though they didn't give any real details. But I'll sure it'll be just like it. Another one that everyone seems to be talking about is Deathloop. Personally, didn't appeal to me, but it's a Bethesda game developed by Arcane Studios, which is the Dishonored people, and I knew that immediately because it looks exactly like the Dishonored gameplay, which I wasn't a huge fan of Dishonored, even though it's kind of, I love stealth games, so I just couldn't get into it. Like, the gameplay looks just like it. Basically, you're like dueling assassins or hitmen, or kind of, and you're stuck in a time loop. It was kind of very scripted gameplay that was shown. They didn't really go into any gameplay mechanics, but I mean, other than what we saw, like I said, it looks like Dishonored stuff, so I'm sure it'll be similar to that. I'm sure it's gonna be it will do pretty well. I think not really my thing, but again, it looks interesting. And Resident Evil 8 Village Resident Evil was announced. It's kind of weird how they named it, but that one's been heavily rumored for some time. It was just a pre-rendered trailer. It looks just like Resident Evil 7, which I was not a fan of the change to the first person. I actually kind of like the Resident Evil games. I think they're much better in third person. Don't like them in first. Yeah, I know people love Resident Evil 7. I didn't like it. I'm all for the horror, or more of a horror aspect. I just don't like the first person. Just feels weird for that. Feels like a different game, honestly. Yeah, I'm sure we'll do well. I mean, the last one did well, so I'm sure it'll sell well. And we saw Chris Redfield again, which was cool. It's nice to see him. And another game announced by Sony or PlayStation Studios, called Returnal, was announced. Maybe the worst game name I have ever heard in my life. Returnal, yeah. So anyways, you play as a woman who crashed on an alien planet, and you're trapped in a cycle of death, and when you reawaken, the planet changes, and it seems like she's kind of going through some psychological misfortune, basically. It's driving her crazy, which is understandable. They really go into any gameplay mechanics, but the little gameplay they showed where it's like a third-person shooter, it looks very similar to Remnant from the Ashes. So I'd be kind of interested to see more details on this one. Potentially interesting. Need more details. I feel like I say that so much, but they give us so little, so it's hard to... You can only tell so much from the pre-rendered trailers. But this one did show a little bit of gameplay. Again, scripted, quick cutscenes between different sections, so it's hard to get too much from it. But that could be interesting. Again, I really prefer shooting games with a mouse and keyboard support, which I'm probably going to write about later. Another game, notable one, was Ghostwire Tokyo. It was from Tango Gameworks, and it's published by Bethesda. It looked very last gen. Really did not look very graphically good when it was streamed live, but when I watched the 4K footage, some areas looked pretty impressive. It was a really stark difference. But there's definitely some areas in the trailer that it looked unfinished. This game definitely seems like it's a pretty far out. I mean, there's definitely a lot of areas that need to touch up. It does show some gameplay. Again, just really quick cut together stuff. So it's like a first person kind of, it looks like you use magic and melee stuff. Can be really difficult to pull off that. Usually melee combat is much better in third person. It didn't really look like something I'm interested in, but it does seem like a lot of people seemed interested in it. So this is somewhat of a noteworthy game announced. There was quite a few indie games announced. The only one that stood out to me was it's called Kenna Bridge of Spirits, and it looks like a CGI movie, basically. Kind of a cartoonish feel to it. It had these very lush and colorful environments. It didn't say too much about it, but according to the blog post, it's a story-driven action-adventure game combining exploration with discovery and with fast-paced combat. basically you can use that to describe like 90% of video games. So basically it tells us nothing. But you know, it looks like there's melee combat. You have like the staff with like a kind of a glowing, I guess, crystal at the top, and you can, it looks like in one section you can like transform like this desolate area into like a lush, you know, forest environment. It looks very pretty. So they said it was a small studio too, working on it, so it's pretty impressive. You know, not the graphically the best game, but it, you know, has a distinctive art style. So again, I don't really like that cartoonish stuff. It's not really for me, but it seems like it could be potentially a good game, just not one that I would be interested in. But again, there's several other games that were announced. Square Enix announced one. There was some other stuff. So little was told about it. Like, I don't want to. I just wanted to talk about the standout stuff. I don't want to go through all of them and say like, oh well, there's really nothing I can say about this one, you know. But yeah, these were just like the standout stuff that I saw. It was nice to see the box, actual game. Everything was recorded on a PlayStation 5, which is nice. Not just PCs that were targeting what it may look like on a on a PlayStation 5. So that was, you know, good of them. I really wish there was more gameplay shown, not just pre-rendered trailers. Again, there was some gameplay shown, just not enough, and didn't really go into any gameplay mechanics, so pretty disappointing. We're still pretty unclear on some stuff. They haven't said anything about mouse and keyboard support, which I think is really important. That would be almost like a convince me to buy the PlayStation 5 at launch if it had mouse and keyboard support. I would absolutely love that. Again, Microsoft has that, and PC obviously has that, so they're really falling behind in that area. And I really would love to get some more clarification on how cross-gen stuff is going to work, you know, basically how it's going to work between like PlayStation 4 games working on PlayStation 5. They said that some games would be enhanced with better resolution and frame rate, but how is that going to work with remasters? Are they going to recharge us for stuff that we already own, even though you can play it cross-gen? And especially if there's a PlayStation 4 version, a PlayStation 5 version of a game, are you going to have to pay for both of them? They've already come out and said, Microsoft, you're not going to have to do that. It really worries me that Sony hasn't said anything. I'm pretty sure you're going to have to pay twice for the same game. I really don't like that. That's basically a deal breaker for me. Again, they just need to come out and give us some direct, clear information on how that's going to work. Especially like Cyberpunk, you know, you buy that on Xbox One, you get it on Xbox Series X. I hope it's like that on PlayStation 4 and 5, but they just need to give us more details. And again, pricing would be nice, especially since whatever it costs, you're going to have to pay another $100, especially if you get the, well, I guess it counts for both, but I mean, the digital one, the hard drive is so small, you're going to have to buy another hard drive, at least a 1 or 2 terabyte hard drive. You know, it's going to be another $100 on top of whatever it is the box costs to get a hard drive, because it's so small. You're only going to be able to fit like 3 or 4 games. I'm assuming you're playing like, you know, current gen new games. Supposedly they said the file sizes are supposed to be smaller because of how they can work with the SSD, but that's if developers choose to do that. They can do that now and they still don't. So it's apparently be easier to do on the PlayStation 5, but we'll see. I'm pretty skeptical. You have some games that are already over 100 gigabytes, you know, which means, you know, again, you're not gonna be able to play for fit many games. And even if you get the disc version, it still installs it to the hard drive, so it doesn't really help there. Personally, I'm gonna get like I said earlier, I'm gonna get the one with the disc drive in it. I hope it doesn't cost too much more. I mean, disc drives aren't very expensive, and they kind of just plopped it on the top of it, or side, depending on which way you're looking. Can't cost that much more to add in. Really, I mean, they're probably going to charge at least another $50, which is just insane to get the disc drive, but it's probably what it's going to be. If it's 100, oh my god, that would be just terrible. Everything I'm seeing, I don't see any reason to buy the PlayStation 5. It's just, there's really no games I see that are must-play games. The only thing that could possibly come out is the next God of War, which is probably at least another 2 years away. Personally, I'm probably going to wait. I think I'm upgrading my PC first and just going to play PC stuff, or whatever is available on PC. and then get the PlayStation 5. You know, they're probably going to come up with a Pro version. I might wait for that. Unless I'm, like, reviewing all the brand new games as they come out, which I'm going back and reviewing games from the past decade, so I'm not really doing that right now. So, again, I don't really see any reason to buy the PlayStation 5. It would be nice to have, if they are having enhanced versions of PlayStation 4 games on it that are free to play, or you don't have to pay for the upgrade. That would be nice, because I trophy hunt, and I still have a ton of games of PlayStation 4 and 3 that I'm working on, so it would be nice to play them at acceptable frame rates, because it can barely hit 30 FPS in some games. So I'd like to see more details. They keep saying that there's more to show, and they have all these great things they haven't told us about, but where is all that stuff? I mean, why haven't they told us about it yet? I guess it's the PlayStation 5, even though it's not looking good, it's still going to sell like crazy. Sony, PlayStation brand is huge right now, and it does seem like they're really trying to force people off of the PlayStation 4 into the PlayStation 5, which I really don't like. Very anti-consumer practices. I don't see, you know, it sucks because they're going to pay for a lot of games to be exclusive on it, so you're kind of forced, if you want to play certain games, to play it on there. It sucks. I mean, outside of you know, first-party games, there's third-party, you know, or third-party developers that they're, you know, getting exclusive deals on PlayStation 5. So you're kind of, if there's certain games you want to play, you're forced to play it on PlayStation 5, which I wish we could just choose where we want to play it. Or they could just have pro-consumer practices, and I wouldn't feel, like, disgusted buying their products. That would be great. Too much to ask for, though. So we're going to see, this is a real console, like a bigger console war than I feel we've had in quite some time. So it's interesting to see who comes out on top. I think Microsoft is going to do much better this generation than they did last. I think either it's going to be neck and neck like it was in the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 era. PlayStation 3 actually did beat. I know a lot of people, it seems like, think that the Xbox 360 won over the PlayStation 3. No, they actually sold more PlayStation 3s. They didn't win by much, but they did win. And Xbox 360 was ahead for a while, but PlayStation 3 really came back in the end of its life cycle. I think Sony's gonna win, but not by nearly as much as it did this current generation. I think they're definitely gonna do much better with the Xbox Series X, such an awkward name. But so let me know down below in the comments, how do you think this console looks? Do you like the design? Do you like the direction they're going with it? How do you feel about the games announced? Is there anything you're excited for? Like I said, there's definitely stuff that I would play. You know, I'd buy it on a sale. Like Horizon Zero Dawn 2, I wasn't really too into the first game, but if it was on a good sale, I'll probably buy it and play it. You know, there's a lot of stuff like that. But there's nothing that really stood out to me that said, I have to play this game and I need to buy this console to play it. But if there's something that you saw that you feel like you have to buy the PlayStation 5 to play, let me know down below. I'm working on some reviews. I'll hopefully get them up soon. I have a full trophy guide for a game coming out too. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Life is Strange is probably going to be next review, and then probably Far Cry 5 followed up right after that. I'm working on the Far Cry 5 trophies. The DLC ones take forever, but once I'm done with that, I'm going to do a review for it. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next video.